Hi everybody, my name's John Franklin, I'm Head of Safety Promotion at EASA, and welcome to Conversation Aviation. This is our introductory podcast, videocast to this new series that we're just about to start. And what we have here is three people having a conversation, and we've been trying to develop this concept and trying a little bit what works and what doesn't. We're going to try not to be stiff and tight, and hopefully we can have a good chat. And I'm joined here today by Chris Drew and Claudio Martirano, and the three of us have been working on this concept for a little while. Maybe we start, Chris, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your link to the work we're doing at EASA and our safety promotion work and the other things. You've been involved for quite a while now.
Yeah, that's right, and thanks for having me on. As you say, we are trying this out, so there will be lots of mistakes, and my dog's just been barking in the background, so apologies if you can hear that. I've been involved in safety for most of my career, both as an aircraft mechanic and then a licensed engineer, and in consulting for the last 15 years. That's why I'm so old. And a lot of that has been around the conundrum of safety and how do people operate in systems? How does the regulation shape that? How does language, how does commercial pressure, how does regulator intent overlay over all that? And, as we get more and more advanced into safety, we're getting safer, there's more regulations and more and more integration. How does that all mesh together, and how do we get people on the front line to not only do their jobs technically well, but also to understand the intent of the safety regulations? I think that's what this conversation's around. It goes back a long way from hearing lots of different people in lots of different domains and just having different thought bubbles about when they hear the word safety, they do different things based on where they're working and how they're working. And some of it means health and safety, some of it means flying and aircraft safety, some of it's environmental safety. So what is it and how do we do it better? I suppose is the theme.
And I guess those different behaviours are kind of similar to our attempts to do a podcast and not suddenly sound immediately stiff the moment we hit the record button, which is kind of the interesting thing. And so maybe Claudio, we've known each other a couple of years now, and maybe you can say a little bit about the work we've been doing together and your link into this podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, and again, apologise for everybody if we do make some mistakes, but this is part of the fun, this is part of the conversation that we're actually having. And some of the things that we've been doing together with the EASA from DC Alliance point of view is just kind of helping people get back to work from a number of different attributes, from helping them with transferable skills, or from the human factors, or from the safety promotion point of view. And just like Chris says, that understanding that safety is different to everybody is becoming really paramount, especially in the last year. And it's actually really interesting when you're talking to a pilot about it, or a maintenance about it, or an air traffic controller about it. Everybody's got a potentially different opinion. And one of the things that I'm kind of loving about it really is the fact that I'm learning a lot more about all the other attributes and all the other elements of our industry. And one thing that we all have is we all love the industry, and we all want to kind of talk about it, keep it active, keep it going. And so I'm really glad that we've got this opportunity to just kind of chat about what the issues are, and find out how we can fix them and how we can kind of get back to normal situations.
I think if
actually one of the things go on, Chris.
Sorry, go on, John.
Yeah,
I was just going to say,
No.
Claudia, that even though I've been in talking around safety for a long time and training and consulting, you kind of get into a pattern where you think that everyone understands what you mean when you say something. And actually, just today, I was talking to a colleague from the air traffic domain, which it's not my expertise. And when you use a phrase or a word, they just go off down a certain way of thinking and then an assumed understanding, and then you go off and do things. And I think that's the point where we just need to understand together in conversation,
100%.
in an easy way, what that means, so we have that common base of understanding. Sorry, John, I interrupted you.
Do you know? Oh, sorry.
No, go on, Claudio.
Sorry, I interrupted you again, John. I was just going to say, you're so right, Chris. You're so right, Chris, because even like we were doing the human factors course for EASA that we were just completed recently, which will be coming out soon. And as we were getting it peer reviewed, it was like, oh, there seems to be a lot of continued airworthiness elements to this. What about all the other elements? And it was exactly like you were saying. there was a lot of experts involved in it. I mean, there was 16 companies involved in it, but a lot of them were all thinking from a particular point of view, and so we had to go back and revisit it and start thinking from other points of views to get the whole industry together. And it honestly is exciting. It really is. Sorry, John. Now we can let you speak.
And I think that's the no. I was just going to say. I think that's one of the really interesting things. Even at a fundamental level, the fact that I'm sat here in an office in Cologne, in Germany. In the office with people walking past, trying to close and open doors as quietly as possible. Where I'm sat here with a microphone. Chris, I know you're doing the kind of traditional COVID home working at the moment with a post-it note on the door. Claudio's in the car there in the middle of doing some work with clients in Luxembourg.
We're on site.
It's interesting to see all of these different situations we find ourselves in. I think is completely just highlights what I think collectively as an industry we're learning from COVID is that we're in these new situations, and these new situations require new ways of doing things. And I think this is where, with this Conversation Aviation, this idea to really focus on having a conversation, what you were saying, both of you there, about people in different domains, how we understand the way we talk to each other. And, Chris, the idea for this type of discussion came from discussions we were having and work you were doing. What kind of conversations were you having, and what kind of led to this idea?
I think, if I'm really honest, which I shouldn't have to say, because I'm going to be honest anyway, is that I think it was a frustration of having the same conversations over and over again, and also coming up against a brick wall of understanding and how that's then taken forward to practical application in the workplace. And on top of that, seeing reports, whether incidents or events, whether it's from an air accident investigation body or just internal investigations, of this glass floor of understanding of how safety is done, where, again, in the world of EASA, there's some very well intended meaning regulations, and they're all written, from the bad events we've had, and all the lessons are there, and all the barriers are there. And there just seems to be, we go so far, and then the kind of work gets in the way and delivery gets in the way. And I know I'm generalising, and we're all doing our jobs as safely as we can. But when you see some of the below the waterline of the error, the dreadful error iceberg, you kind of think, if only that had happened, or if only that person or those people or that group of people or the management system had enabled things differently, then we'd all be a lot more risk-free, and the intent of the safety management system would be enacted in a better way. So I think it's probably born out of a little bit of frustration, seeing the same things happen over and over and again. But when you speak to individual people, they go, "Oh yeah, of course that should be the case." Or "Yeah, why didn't I think of that?" But in that organisational setting, that it seems to dissolve away, and things happen differently to those thoughts that would happen individually. So I think it's quite hard to kind of transmit that in a video call, but that's kind of where it came from. Does that make sense?
This is why I'm quite interested. It makes complete sense from my point of view, and this is why I'm interested to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it. It's because as we're speaking to the different levels of different people, whether that's from management to frontline workers, everybody is trying to do their best. I mean, that's something that's very evident. Everybody is trying to do their best, try to be safe, but they've got their own mentality about what that really means. And like you say, there is frustration out there because there's a lack of understanding about what everybody's kind of going through. So, John, I know you two have put in a lot of effort into the next couple of months into conversations. What kind of conversations are we going to be having, and who's going to be involved?
This is like a natural add-on to the ramp up Be Ready, Stay Safe campaign that we did we launched at the end of May, and some people, you guys remember, hopefully people listening or watching can remember, we did this ramp up safety week, and usually when conferences and events happen, they're an event that happens and finishes, and then people go and all these great things get discussed, and people leave, and you don't necessarily pick them up. And hopefully that's, this is what we're trying to do with this, is continue those conversations as a long-term conversation. So, we put together effectively these. So the idea with this is to have 4-week packages of a key topic, and within that topic, we explore different ideas. And I think, Chris, we've done quite a lot of work together, haven't we? Trying to pick the way we would split that up and the kind of format on that.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about some of the people that we have got on board. For a few months now, I've been doing some interviews and sort of phone calls with people about the ramp-up situation across different domains, ground ops, flight ops, engineering, maintenance, at different levels. And clearly, there's all sorts of challenges at all sorts of levels for all sorts of reasons. And what's really interesting is, depending on where you are in the world, of course, and the COVID recovery and the industry recovery rate, again, there's different perceptions of what's the problem today and how do we fix it. So hopefully we've got a good cross-section of people that will make a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, and I think that first part, so the first week, the topic we're going to cover is the challenge of within the ramp-up campaign. We had this question about having enough skilled, trained and qualified people who are operationally ready and fit for duty. And I think, Claudio, the stuff you were talking about the work you've been doing on the HF package for us and the things we've been doing on wellbeing kind of fits really nicely in that, I think, doesn't it?
It does, because we use this HF, we use human factors course, but it's more than just human factors. It's all about everything combined of how to all get back to it. And especially for this one that we are doing alongside you guys in the EASA, is that scenario base, and it's a very simple scenario base. Something happens on the aircraft, maintenance have to go deal with it, pilots have to deal with it, the air traffic control have to deal with it, operations have to deal with it. What's everybody going through? How are they dealing with it? And then how is that related to what's happened over the last year? And it's building it on from the kind of service providers, from the information we've been getting from the unions, from the information that Chris has been saying that he's been getting from his clients, and combining all that together. And this is why, again, like I've said it a couple of times now, but I'm really excited to understand all the different levels of it. Because if we want to strive, and we all want to strive, we've got to be smarter about this, and we've got to actually understand how we can actually learn from past mistakes in the industry and move forward. And that's what I'm personally hoping we can get out of this Conversation Aviation. So looking forward to the next couple of months of getting everybody involved.
And I think that's one of the things that some of you, hopefully the audience will also know about our Safe 360 conference and this concept of the 360-degree approach.
Yep.
And, it's interesting. I know both of you have been involved and kind of followed our Safe 360 conference, and I think that value in that joined-up conversation, breaking down the silos between all the different people, is the really important part of the conversations we're going to have, I think.
Yeah, and I think what we really want to bring to light here is the day-to-day challenges at all the levels, but including the coalface level, where sometimes you look at a conference or a presentation and it's all good and it's all correct. But again, how does that translate into people doing their jobs who are very often time pressured? The planning isn't great. They haven't got the right resources or tools. They need the right culture to work into to kind of work safely and enact what is a great safety policy in the company. How does that really look, and what are the real challenges? And I think between our conversations, John, in the past about the frustrations I mentioned, and Claudio's discussions there about the COVID challenges, I think we can hopefully draw that together. So that will be exciting.
Well, that's something that I'm looking at, again, like what should be really good coming out of it is practical advice for everybody, for airlines, airports, every organisation out there. Yeah, practical advice and actual guidelines out of this of how we can actually progress forward. So yeah, absolutely fantastic, Chris.
And I think, and I see that's one of the things, isn't it? We have all this official, we have the rules, we have all the official guidelines and all these other things that support that. But it's then having this practical conversation that underpins that about what does that look like practically for a frontline safety manager or a pilot or an engineer or a controller or ground staff or all the cabin crew, whatever, all the different frontline people we have in aviation, also then bringing in together the operational part, the safety part and the kind of human factors well-being aspects, so we create this combined view. And I know that's something that we've all been challenged about, really trying to figure out how we do that over the last year or so particularly.
So when does this actually kick off, and what's the progress going to be from now going forward, Chris?
So maybe I can explain a little bit about what people can expect. That's probably quite useful.
Please.
We've done all the details.
Yeah.
So we have these. I talked about these 4-week cycles. So we pick this being ready part as the first 4-week cycle. And then what people will get is that within that 4-week cycle, we'll have 3 around 30-minute video casts and podcasts, and you'll be able to watch those either through YouTube or through your favourite podcasting kind of service, just as an audio file, either as a visual discussion with the actual people or as a podcast conversation. So we'll have a different topic each week for the first 3 weeks of that 4-week cycle. So there'll be the podcast, videocast, and we'll launch that around lunchtime every Friday. And that will follow in each of those 3 weeks with, this is kind of the big thing you've already been doing, Claudio, is on the Friday afternoon is us having an online kind of discussion forum where people can join in and really take part in a weekly conversation about different safety challenges. Maybe you can follow up, tell a little bit about that Friday afternoon thing, Claudio.
Yeah, of course. I really appreciate that. So basically for the last 3-4 months, the TC Alliance has been hosting every Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock BST, 2 o'clock CET, via a LinkedIn link to Zoom that anybody can just join in. And originally it started off that people were frustrated, join in and just kind of offload about your week, frankly, and you've got other people in the industry there to listen to it. And then we found that actually people wanted to really talk about issues, and actually the same way that Chris was talking about, people wanted to have conversations around their frustrations, around what was going on. And it's never really had a real program around it. It's just been people coming on, having a conversation, having a bit of fun, offloading. And this, when Chris came up with the idea of actually let's go around it and do it on specific topics, this is where we hope it will become something a lot, greater. That we'll have the recorded session that you were talking about, John, and then everybody that can then come on, and we can talk about that recorded session, say, okay, what did we actually learn from it? Can we actually practically do anything about it? And then the following week, it'll be a case of, right, what have we done about it? And let's continue that conversation. And then there's going to be a live one as well, once a month. Isn't that right, John?
That's right. And so in the 4th week, the idea would be then to have a live webinar that people can join and sign up to. We'll record that as well so people can watch it afterwards. And then we can have a wider live conversation with live question and answers and those kinds of things. So we have this once a month kind of summary of the 4-week cycle that we did and kind of really mix that all together. So it becomes, quite a dynamic experience as well as just kind of being able to listen to podcasts and all of these kinds of things. So hopefully that mixture will be good. As I say, we take Be Ready part of the campaign first, and then the next 4-week block will be Stay Safe, and then we're going to move into specifically talking about safety management. And it'll be great, hopefully, as this starts and really hopefully builds momentum, to get feedback from all the audience as to, I think that's one of the things. What do people want? Are we covering the right subjects? It might be that actually the things we think we want to talk about aren't the things that anybody wants, and we can adapt, of course, can't we?
Well, that's the point, isn't it? It's Conversation Aviation. If we're having our own conversation, join in. What should we be talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
I don't know. Sorry, Claudia. Those every 4 week, the live sessions still include panelists and people other than us talking and bringing their perspective as well. So that'd be great.
And maybe it's a good time
Good
just
point,
to
Chris.
kind of finish this little introduction by preparing people for what they're going to expect then next Friday when we launch the first videocast podcast. So as I say, the topic we're going to pick is skills and knowledge and the challenge of having people who are operationally ready and fit for duty. And we've got, again, some great guests. We've got the idea would be is you get to listen to the three of us kind of support the discussion and move things along. But ultimately then what you've got is 3 external, really operational guests. Maybe, Chris, you know Harry best from Oxford Airport. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about him and his involvement.
Harry he's a great safety advocate, but also, as we discussed earlier, a very practically orientated sort of guy. He's got some great hands-on experience. He's a proper operator. He'll probably come on in his day-glow vest, like he always does. But he
Nice.
knows the grassroots, and how it's applied in his domain of airport operations. So really looking forward to hearing what Harry's got to say, based on my discussions with him about the challenges of ramp up in his particular sector. So he'll be great.
And then obviously we've got, from the airline side, we've got Laurent from ASL, and you know that airline pretty well, Claudio. I know your wife works there as well, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So it's actually really interesting how it all kind of connects back together, and this is quite, and this is one thing that's quite funny, is that a lot of people in aviation, a lot of the partners are also in aviation in some way or form or another. So we all get to see it and we all get to live the lifestyle. So I'm looking forward to just seeing, that side of it as well.
And I think it was interesting that it shows really how we are so connected in aviation. I mean, Chris, you've been working with Jack and the team at ASL, and they agreed to get involved in the podcast before we even realised that Claudio's wife worked there as well. So it shows how the whole of aviation is really such a small world, I think, now, and it shows the importance of having these kinds of conversations. I think that's really interesting. And then actually the final guest we've got also on this session, we thought it'd be useful to kind of expand our horizons a little bit and look beyond the European kind of context as well. And we've got somebody called Ryan Gertzen from one of the big big maintenance organisations in the US to kind of, I think their COVID situation, they're a little bit further ahead than we are in Europe. And I think, we had a little prep call. It was interesting to see their situation and kind of almost what we might expect in Europe in a few months. I was kind of struck by that. I don't know about you two.
Yeah, when we were talking, sorry, go ahead, Claudio.
I was just going to say, it was actually Chris that said afterwards that we wish we recorded that session, because it was actually such a good 45 minutes of back and forward about really. So sorry, Chris, go ahead.
It was a classic example of where you're saying something about safety and one person's going mentally, they're going yes, and the other person's going not sure, question mark, because he was talking about his situation and around staffing and recruiting and skills and getting enough people at the right time in a completely different context. But we were all thinking that he was in the same situation as Europe, and he wasn't. He was saying things about fast forwarding sort of 12 months, and we were sort of figuratively thinking, what is he actually talking about? That's not where we are with this stuff. But then he kind of described the situation. It was a classic, self-reflection of what we're trying to get to the bottom of with this conversation. So it was very timely.
And I think that's going to be hopefully one of the interesting things of this. We'll, between the three of us, get a bit, continually improve the way we do this. We'll learn what works, what doesn't, and hopefully we'll have some really great conversations with people and, with groups of people and really, hopefully it provide a useful asset for so many people in aviation to really just be part of the conversation.
Thank you very much for both of you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, we'll sign off this one. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully you found it interesting as an introduction. It gives you an idea of what we're going to be doing. And please tune in next week and we'll have the first of our live conversation, or not live, but proper Conversation Aviation sessions. Join us next week. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.